What is up, everyone? Welcome back to Metalcore Nerds, the WandaVision After Show. I am Sean Mott, your host, and as every week we've had for the last few, I have my co-host Tyler Small. What is up, my man?
I'm pumped, man. I'm like finally got the end credit hype juices going after that last. You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah.
When you leave the theater being like motherfuck, and all you want to do is just like binge Marvel until you get more Marvel. That was like the trigger was the end of that episode because it finally gave us what I think we were waiting for, which was like a peek behind the veil.
A little bit, yeah. I wanted to start off because Tyler brought this up to me, and it totally went over my head that I even said this. But on the last episode, I said Justin Hammer was a part of AIM, and he's not. He's from Iron Man 2. AIM came in Iron Man 3 with Aldrich Killian leading AIM. But I'm going to start off with my crazy theory because it's about AIM.
Okay, because that's good. Because I was gonna be mad if you had the same theory as me and you got to talk first, but that's not my theory. So go ahead.
It is pretty wild, and it's kind of a stretch, but
the
seeds are there. So obviously they're leading. They even gave us more clues for Mephisto when Wanda was giving birth. The flames coming out from the fireplace, kind of like the devil, and then the kids being born straight from the comics, like Mephisto is why the Tommy and Billy came anyway. But I don't think
for people who don't know, we should give a little Tommy and Billy backstory.
I'm going to go through that later. Okay, actually, cool. Yeah, that's a whole separate thing. The Tommy and Billy thing is an actual separate thing by itself. But until we get into that, I know we're kind of starting off with a crazy theory off the bat. So anyone listening, bear with me.
Theories. We should just start with our. Well, we should start with our wildest theories every episode, and that way we can see what we come to. Yeah, let's do it.
All right, so obviously everyone thinks Mephisto. It's been Mephisto for the whole time. Obviously, some people are thinking like, oh, maybe it's Nightmare, especially with Doctor Strange 2 coming. But after I brought up the hexagon thing with AIM, I saw more after shows being like, oh, I know how it's like in the AIM logo, but I don't think it's AIM. But I still think it's AIM. They start off the episode. There's so many hexagons throughout. They obviously did the Brady Bunch intro, but instead of squares, all hexagons. They're leaning real hard into this hexagon thing, and then the commercial.
Sorry.
Dude, so many hexagons. And
that'd be a funny meme.
And then the commercial this episode, I'm more thinking that the commercials are not, because I said there's like, oh, it's kind of the creations of both, but I brought up like the Stark bomb and Wanda, so they both had a connection to Wanda, but Stark is obviously a pivotal thing in Vision. I really do think this is all of them are based in like Wanda's like youth or something. So, but the Hydra soak is very interesting because in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which from the last few seasons of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they kind of at least alluded to that they're not in the same reality or timeline or whatever as the normal one because no one got snapped away. They don't mention the snap, anything like that. And they kind of do this crazy time travel thing a billion times. They do it a lot. They end up going into like an alternate virtual reality where things are different. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is crazy, but
and the alternate future.
Many alternate futures. They time travel so much it's like insane. But
while you're on that subject, just real quick, I just want to say like my only opinion on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is I think it was a missed opportunity disconnecting it so much from the movies, but the multiverse is the perfect way for them to make it look like it was all intentional the whole time.
I agree because they definitely had stuff that, I mean, Lady Sif was in it. Obviously Nick Fury was in the like pilot episode. Coulson is in it, but he's alive now.
I think it was like Endgame, where it was the same timeline until they made a new branch, and then
when they traveled to the future, that maybe created a new branch.
At some point, they made their own version of what happens
because they do a lot of time travel fuckery in that episode that could definitely lead to many branch realities just from that show alone.
Yeah, and like they said, and like Mordo, is that the right name? Mordo.
Yeah. Oh yeah. From
he talks about the consequences of playing with time and like
Right.
time holes and all shit, and that's like Kang's gonna be like, oh hello.
Yeah.
Like,
And the ancient one went deeper into that in Endgame too, saying that messing with it creates a whole offshoot of another timeline in itself. So in the framework, which an easy explanation for, because I know a ton of people haven't watched Agents of Shield. The framework was basically like an AI based, almost like the Matrix in a way, and it made all the people live this like alternate reality, and it was crazy part of the season. But while they were in that, Agent Coulson talks about this blue Hydra soap that's mind control soap, and it's called Hydra Soak, and they talk about, oh, do you want to get away? Do you want to be at home but be somewhere else? It's like, I mean, a lot of everything in the show is kind of alluded to mind control, or, you know, like the Westview sign in the intro last episode was like, home is where you make it. You know, it's like all to these like illusions that like Wanda has made this, which it's almost confirmed that it is like a little pocket reality she's created around a town. We'll talk about that later too. But this whole thing with Agents of Shield. So Agents of Shield isn't canon, I guess. Like you said, and I've said in past podcasts, that I think that Marvel is going to do this in a way that everything is going to end up being canon in some way, but it's going to be like a multiverse
all the
thing.
Hulu properties too. You think we'll get Cloak and Dagger and all that? Because I really liked that.
Runaways was MCU canon, and it had to be because they reference Wakanda. They go to the fucking dark dimension. The one of the characters uses dark magic and gets the same blue thing around the eyes like Caecilius did. Like that happened in the MCU. I just think the events of it were so small that no one ever knew about it.
Well, and I never really watched all of it, but I also feel like it has to be because they cross. And then I feel like by default,
Cloak and Dagger
has to be because they cross over, right?
Yeah. So technically, and Cloak and Dagger deals with Roxxon, and Roxxon has been in the MCU, just hasn't really been. It's like AIM. It's been introduced. They haven't really went deep on it yet, which I think they will. And the MCU's been the best of like, oh hey, here's this thing. We're gonna bring it back like 10 years later or whatever. So these are all gonna play a factor, I think, in the future. But so mind control. So we saw the beekeeper come up. It was surrounded. It came up from the sewer. It was surrounded in like bees or insects or whatever. I saw a lot of people being like, oh, could it be Swarm? Which would be terrible because I think that villain is ridiculous. But there is a villain that did appear in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. called Hive. So Hive.
I said, the word I used, that word I dropped that I didn't have any context to.
Yes. And it's like, you know, like all the octagon shapes form a hive, you know? Yep. And Hive is pretty much like this crazy amalgamation of super parasites. They're all programmed with like Hydra's like thoughts and everything. So it's like a super Hydra parasite, and it can mind control, and it can reanimate the dead. So Paul Bettany did say we find out what happens to Vision's body. Maybe that's a part of it. Maybe it's Wanda's powers. Maybe it's a combination of both. But it kind of would explain how the town people are like mind controlled and like doing all this random stuff. Like they're obviously playing along with the bit. And there's some like, I watched one video that kind of broke down what Strucker said in Age of Ultron and the post-credit scene of Winter Soldier. And he kind of made it seem like there was a bigger plan for the twins.
Yeah.
Because his like lackey was like, oh, send out the twins. This is what they're made for. And he's like, no, I don't want to. He almost surrendered it so he couldn't give away the twins. Like there was some bigger picture for Wanda. And it's like this whole thing that's happening now could have been Hydra's bigger, or not just Hydra, Strucker's bigger picture for Wanda. So
yeah, they somehow got her back and trapped her again, kind of thing.
Maybe. And it's and in the comics, Strucker forms Hydra because it's like the science division of Hydra, or forms AIM, not Hydra. And he kind of, even in that credit scene, he's like, Shield, Hydra, they're two sides of the same coin. Like he's thinking of something bigger.
Do you think
AIM
it's
could have been that bigger
possible?
thing.
Do you think it's possible Strucker came back to life somehow, or do you think the Ultron killed him for
If
real?
he can reanimate people from the dead, Hive could have brought him back. Maybe. Like this is crazy, but like
yeah.
it's possible.
Yeah. I mean, Strucker really didn't get his moment in the sun in the
no, not really. So like he did and he didn't. It was a very like fast thing, you know. Obviously he had lasting effects because he brought the twins. Well, he gave the twins their powers. And another thing that I think we talked about in the prediction show is that I still think this is leading to like mutants being a thing, because even in, like I talked about in the Wakanda files and stuff like that, they're more saying that like the Mind Stone didn't give them their powers. It more just activated something in them that gave them their powers, you know, like an X gene and everything like that. So I think we're going to get that answer too later. Hopefully we'll see. But that's my crazy theory, that it's Hive, not Mephisto. Pretty wild, pretty obscure. I only know about him because of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. I don't really know much of his comic stuff. I know they kind of like what he does, they kind of took straight from the comics, but not really the storyline, because the storyline with Hive is really weird in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. But
yeah, I mean, well, there's so much shit that they brought into the MCU in that show that hasn't been referenced in the movies yet, you know, like from Ghost Rider to the Darkhold is the biggest thing, I would say.
Yeah.
That just got brushed. And I mean the fucking Kree, like that was weird. Like that was all weird. Like,
they do have Kree people and throughout.
The most Kree you've really seen, aside from like, well, I feel like I know that's all different. I don't want to get on that tangent. I feel like Captain Marvel was a little vague with like the whole like, because the Kree were like aren't all blue people, you know, and I feel like they were they were a little vague with that explanation in the MCU. Yeah. What exactly? Because they kind of lead you to think they're like all blue people, but then they're not.
Yeah, for sure.
But so your theory kind of encourages my theory, but just gives a different angle to it.
Okay.
So my theory, it's not as long-winded. My theory, and I'm not saying I'm committed to this, but it's something that I want to present. We're all dead. That was what I think he was trying to say.
It's funny because Eric Voss of New Rockstars had this theory that it's like the bubbles around a graveyard and everyone's dead, and like this whole thing has brought him back to life.
Yeah, I think everyone's dead except for Wanda. And what did I say on the other podcast? The person who infiltrated the illusion, who just got kicked out of it. What did I say? Rambo is there. Rambo's the only one, is one of the only ones who doesn't belong there and is acting like she's supposed to be there. And that was one of my theories, which was proven. So I've had one theory that was technically correct. Was that
we kind of knew that beforehand, that
let me have this. I was like, I don't know anything. I know this is the only thing I know. But yeah, I just like, so it's like Vision's dead.
Yeah,
they're dead. And it's like, just once again, just proves the whole thing. Like Wanda is the one making the illusion stick whenever someone tries to break it. Like it's kind of proven for the most part. You even see the red energy around her. And also they kind of showed in the trailer her blasting Monica through the wall and out of the Vision. Yeah. So we kind of know that happened. So, and then she's all like, oh, nothing happened. She just fell down some stairs, went on holiday. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but it was like, just like before, as soon as she brought up Pietro, her accent came back and she broke character and she got pissed. Like you're fucking with my little fantasy, or you're like, don't fuck with my fantasy. Like, this is my fucking world. Why are you here? Like, you're not supposed to be here. Like, stop making me think about the fact that Vision's dead. I want to be happy with Vision. Like, that's what it feels like. Is she's like, let me live in my fantasy. Get the fuck out. And and it's almost like a child living in a dream world, but the child is a weapon of mass destruction that everybody's freaking out trying to like stop. Yeah, because they're like, okay, yeah, sure, she might be okay now, but like if she can do this, like sure, the implications are like, that's why there's like guns and everybody have the gun. Like they're all like, everybody's probably fucking terrified of like Wanda's capabilities right now.
I'll get more into that moment. Oh no, you finish.
No, that's pretty much it. My theory, just one of my theories is that like everyone either is or was dead except for
possible.
Wanda. Yeah,
it's definitely possible. That's for sure. I've thought about it. I'll get into it a little later why I have a slight inkling that they're not dead, but I do like that theory though. It's a very fun theory and very, it kind of adds more to like the darkness of the show, because obviously it's like each episode has had these like darkness sprinkled in almost nonchalantly, and then especially in episode 2 and 3 the ending has been like boom, holy fuck, what the fuck is happening, which I love it. But I wanted to go over like the overall feel and vibe of the episode. It's obviously based in the 70s.
So let me just wrap up. I just remember where I was coming there. Well, how your theory tied in is what I was saying is like what you said, same thing. It's like, I think it's like Mephisto has control of all, is like either Mephisto could have put all the dead people there, or AIM or Hive could have had something to do with all the dead people there. So it could be like dead people on behest of science, dead people on at the behest of mythical shit. Like that's kind of it could go either way. But I definitely feel like what you told me about like all these theories, they said they confirmed a lot of the fan theories are accurate and like wildly accurate, makes me feel like since Mephisto seems to be the most common theory, that's why I think it's the Mephisto one, but we can go from there.
It's true. But there's also like a million theories out there, so him saying that is the most vague thing ever.
Oh yeah. But I just feel like I've seen the majority of people seem to
there's been a lot of Mephisto for sure. It's just like
I think
funny.
People want that too. They just want it to be Mephisto.
Yeah. Because people will say, especially Kevin Feige will be like, yeah, I love seeing the fan theories, but none of them are even close. And usually they aren't. Like, because I've listened to so many podcasts, like people talking about Endgame, people talking about Infinity War, like even them themselves is like, hey, I'm gonna speculate on this because it's fun, but there's no way I think any of this happens. And 9 times out of 10, none of them, like no one guessed that like Loki was gonna get his head, like his neck broken in the first minutes of Infinity War. You know what I mean? Like no one guessed that everyone was really going to get dusted at the end. No one thought that was going to happen. Even in Endgame, like no one thought Black Widow was going to die. People kind of figured Tony was going to die or Steve was going to die, but like no one thought it was going to happen the way it did.
Yeah.
It's just like there's so many things, like the portal scene, like no one ever would have guessed that. Like people kind of like, oh yeah, they're going to come back, but it's like, how are they going to come back? Yeah. It's you can sort of theorize some things, but you'll never get the full picture with Marvel. That's why I'm thinking like, oh, everyone's like Mephisto, they're gonna fucking dupe us. Like, you know what I mean? But they it could not. It could still be Mephisto. I don't know.
Or they could make you think it's not Mephisto and then give you a Mephisto tease in the very last 2 seconds of the episode. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the after credits of the final episode, they could make you be like, yeah, it was AIM the whole time. And then the last 5 seconds, you see Dottie turn into Mephisto. You know what I mean? Like that's all they have to do. Like, yeah, I know you just like came a little. You're like, oh yeah, like you're like, yeah, that'd be like because I think we all just want to see MCU CGI makeup. What is Mephisto? Not an old man in a black suit, like the fucking Ghost Rider movie. You know what I mean? We want to see like, I want to see wavy, spiky, red devil Mephisto.
Yeah,
but
yeah, but overall feeling and like vibe of this episode is obviously based in the 70s. The intro is very Brady Bunch, Mary Tyler Moore, and the music is actually based on the Partridge Family. And then the house is like kind of like an homage to the Brady Bunch house and everything like that, which is very cool. I love them making fun of like all the normal sitcom tropes, like her hiding her pregnant belly. I mean, obviously she was hiding it because it's like, oh, she's almost 9 months pregnant in like 12 hours or whatever it was, and everything like that. Like she's trying to hide her secret away from the town. But it's funny how even Vision's like, they keep saying like, oh, we have to keep our secret away from the town, but it's deeper than that because there's a bigger secret being kept from, you know what I mean? I love that stuff. But even the doctor being like, oh yeah, we tell the wives that like how many months they're pregnant based on a fruit because it's easier for them. And even Wanda's like, what the fuck is he talking about? It's like, I love how they take old like sexist and like racist sitcom tropes and like bring him to the front being like, yeah, it's stupid. I love how they've been doing that. It's like it's been really cool. And I
It's
even
easy
loved
to
like
understand.
the how it started raining when her water broke, and then her like busting open the door and the wind coming. That like reminded me of Bruce Almighty.
Yeah, no, that for
Which was
sure.
super funny.
I like how like I think that I mean it kind of comes back to what I was saying. A lot of people weren't stoked on the show at first. I think all that stuff is going to be the payoff stuff that people realize later that they weren't paying attention to. It's just like you realize it's kind of like it's like the Kylo Ren thing I was talking about. Everyone was like, "Oh man, Kylo Ren got beat by Rey," but even in the fucking book, it straight up says like, "I got shot." If he hadn't gotten shot in the stomach with a bowcaster, he probably would have kicked her ass. You know what I mean? And it's just like
Right.
It's like the whole movie was basically an advertisement for how powerful the bowcaster was. Like you just watch it launching dudes fucking across the place. So they could set it up so your small brain could comprehend that he got shot in the stomach and walked it off. And then like half of the fandom was just like, man, Kylo Ren's a bitch. He couldn't even fight Rey. And I'm like, bro, imagine if someone shot you with a 12 gauge and then you just like walked off and had a sword fight. Like, what do you smoke? Like, but it's like this thing where it's like, yo, like she's like a god. She's like, oh, it's wet. It's dry.
Yeah.
Like they're basically just showing that like Bruce Almighty, like she literally is like omnipotent at this point.
Yeah.
And so to some end.
Yeah.
So it's like I like how they like basically you can watch the show with blinders on. Like you're here to watch a superhero sitcom, and it's just funny as they basically give you like one show with like a dark show hidden. Like it's like Brady Bunch, but the whole episode is an episode of Twin Peaks hidden underneath.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Much. Yeah.
Yeah.
And obviously, this whole episode is based on Wanda's pregnancy and her giving birth to the children. I love how her and Vision were like fighting over like Tommy or Billy. Like as soon as they say Tommy and Billy, you're like, oh, they're giving birth to the twins.
So that got me off guard because I didn't remember their human names. I only remembered Wiccan and like Wiccan and Speed. So that did when they were arguing with the names, I was like, Tommy and Billy. I was like, those names are so fucking white bread. Like, what the fuck? And then I was like, oh, it's because it was intentional. Like that they were characters from the comic. But
and
then she's like, oh, you're so strong when she's holding Wiccan because he's like android. He's like, oh, I'm android sorcerer. Like. Human
he's not really an android. They're both humans.
Well, he's like, he says in the comic, he's like, I'm the son of a sorcerer and an android. Like, he has like a little spiel where he's basically like, to some end, Vision's strength and shit. Right. Because doesn't he have Vision's flight and stuff? Like, did some of it get passed on?
Kind of just like he's mostly like Wanda, in a way. But I mean, Wanda can fly, so
that's fair. Yeah, I'd have to dig more into it. Like I never read much of the Young Avengers. Like I only seen when it's crossed over. So But I felt so stupid. I felt so stupid about the Billy thing after because when I rewatched it, I was like, fuck. Like that. Duh.
So for anyone who doesn't know who the twins are, they're also known as Wiccan and Speed. Wiccan is pretty much the same power as a Scarlet, which was what I just said, and Speed from the name obviously is more like her uncle Pietro or Quicksilver, very fast.
He also looks almost exactly like Quicksilver.
Looks very, very, very much like Quicksilver, and it ends up being so in the comics. How they're birthed is they become fragments. They're birthed from. It's kind of like this, where they're like, "How the fuck is Wanda pregnant?" Vision's a fucking robot. Like how did they? And it is a very accelerated pregnancy, just like how we saw in the episode. And you later find out that they're fragments of Mephisto's soul, and he used them to try and steal her hex magic away from Wanda. And then eventually he takes them away, and that's what kind of triggers the House of M reality breaking moment to happen. Which could happen here, but I don't think it is. And that's kind of what we can start talking about now. So since the MCU is obviously setting up for the Young Avengers, we have Kate Bishop and Hawkeye. We have America Chavez and Doctor Strange 2. We have Stasher and Kang, which for anyone who doesn't know, I've talked about Kang a few times, but Kang is also Iron Lad, time travel. It's crazy. And then now Wiccan and Speed. And Ms. Marvel, which Ms. Marvel isn't traditionally a Young Avenger, but I think she might get thrown into this.
I think even I'm starting to think that Peter's going to be the leader of the Young Avengers.
Maybe. I think he might be more of the Avengers proper team, but I guess we'll see. Because he's already been offered to be in the Avengers. You know, he fought in space, and
maybe that's how they'll bring Miles
maybe
in.
that would be cool. I would be okay with that.
Yeah, it would be the MCU's because they kind of confirmed this is Earth 2800.
Did they though?
Well, they kind of hinted at it that was like what the joke, that was what the theories are. I've been seeing.
I've seen people say that, but it seems like it's happening on the normal Earth. They're just in a pocket reality of another Earth.
No, the Earth, because remember, so Mysterio obviously is bullshit. Everything he says is bullshit. Yeah. So he says he's from Earth 616, which
he says from Earth like 313 or something.
No, he says this is Earth 616, right?
Oh, which it's not. It's like Earth 00990 something crazy long number.
I guess. Oh, so I didn't know that. I thought that was supposed to be setting it up to be like, hey, the MCU in relation to the comic book Earth 616 is Earth 2800, implying that like the MCU, which I've always thought was its own multiverse from the original comic universe, implying that the comic is that Earth 616 in the comics is still canonically the main universe in the MCU. The MCU is just because, as we know, everything in the MCU didn't happen the way it did in the comics.
Well, yeah.
But it was different turns of events. So it's like you could look at the MCU as a giant what if.
Because I feel like it would be the opposite way around. Like the comics are the what if, and the MCU is like the main timeline.
You think?
I would think so. But in Guardians of the Galaxy, you know how they show the planet numbers in the bottom. Yeah. Everyone has said that it's. I was kind of close. It's Earth 199999. I knew there was a lot of nines in it. But that's what Earth said it's been. I did say in the first episode that remember 2800. It's going to mean something. It has to. All the numbers mean something.
Right, that's right.
But that's what it's like. Obviously, it's happening in the Earth as we know it in the MCU.
But unless, it's for pocket reality.
Yeah, unless the pocket reality is Earth 2800, which is possible. It is very possible.
Deep. Yeah, I know. It's like this would be a good time to sample in. You sample in audio. You should sample in audio from Back to the Future. But he's like, oh, that's heavy. Like it's just like something like that it'd be funny to put splice shit like that into these. Like, oh man, that's heavy.
Very, very heavy.
But so go on, continue.
So I don't think that we're going to see Wicked and Speed or Tommy and Billy come in this and then get taken away at the end. I think that Vision is like her either realizing Vision isn't really alive or something that Vision has to die again or whatever is going to be the catalyst for her to like pretty much make this pocket reality, like whether if she like breaks it onto the rest of the world or it breaks it off into the multiverse, she's going to do something to fuck some shit up for Doctor Strange to have to come in and do whatever for it to lead into Doctor Strange 2. Like something crazy is going to happen at the end. So I think more of like the kids will stay in some way, shape, or form to lead us into the Young Avengers leading on. I think it would be kind of a disservice and kind of confusing to like take the kids away and then bring them back later, kind of like how they do in the comics. It's kind of just like really confusing and kind of take stakes out of things in a way.
They could do it like they could literally rip off. Are you a Buffy Angel guy?
Yeah, I mean, I watched them when I was a kid though.
Okay, so I'm like a huge like into those. I honestly, the only reason I haven't gotten into the comics is I can't afford it because like otherwise I would have probably all of them. But so Angel, which is like I'm actually rewatching it right now casually, which is like one of my favorite series of all time. Like in Angel, do you remember the whole arc with his son Connor?
I think so, yeah.
So like Darla, who sired him, has like the impossible pregnancy that no vampire should be able to have.
Right.
He ends up having to stake her because she can't have the baby because she's dead. So he stakes her. When she turns to dust, the baby's alive after. God, that episode was so fucking epically wild. Like that was such a crazy arc. God, the show's so good. Joss Whedon, man. But anyways, it's like so like, and then so it's like this fantasy. It's basically this prophecy, like magical Christ-born Metachlorian Anakin pregnancy thing, right? Then he gets the baby. It's all awesome and crazy, and then the baby gets kidnapped by his mortal enemy and taken away from him to another dimension. and then when his son comes back, he's a full-grown adult and wants to kill him. They could easily just do that with the twins. Mephisto could take the babies at the end, and then you could get like in hell or Mephisto's dimension or where the fuck they go, they age faster, and they could come back as teenagers somehow to some end.
I think they're going to age faster anyway, just like the pregnancy. Yeah,
I was going to say that too, but I was saying in the instance of, you said like as far as rationalizing the kids getting taken and brought back. That was how they. I meant more of.
Yeah. I like the idea. It's more of I don't want them to like die because they kind of you know what I mean. Yeah. They were kind of like figments of Mephisto's soul, and they're like, oh yeah, they were never really real. You know, like I want them to be real. That's like that's my hope, at least. So next part of this episode, this is when stuff gets a little crazy.
Now? Like, oh, now we're getting into the crazy stuff. Like, I thought we were like,
crazy stuff in the episode, not crazy stuff in our heads, because that's always crazy.
Yeah. I'm like 10 Zimas to the wind right now.
So there's that moment in the episode when Vision says, I think something's wrong here, Wanda, and then it glitches and the conversation like almost starts over because it's not the answer she wanted.
Yeah, she's like, nah. Yeah,
which they put it in so it's like crazier than the no and the rewind. You know what I mean? It's just it happens.
You thought the app crashed or glitched.
Yeah, like crazy. You're like, literally, what? What the fuck?
My girlfriend was like, wait, what happened? Like, pause and rewind. And I was like, no, that was part of the show. Like, I was like.
And then obviously when Vision goes outside that first time, well, the second time, Herb's like fucking sawing the wall, and it's obviously like a glitch in whatever the pocket reality is.
So that me and my girlfriend talked about that. Do you think? So I think it was like a glitch in the algorithm. So not to quote my own band. But like, like I just realized those lyrics. But like, yeah, I thought, was it a glitch? Because my girlfriend thought that she was almost trying to like show Vision, like, I'm sawing through cement. This is not fucking right. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
maybe.
Do you think it was intentional or like a meh, I'm just repeat? I cannot like.
That's the big mystery I'm trying to figure out with that whole thing, because, and it's a little bit adding to what you were saying earlier, in a way. But everyone seems terrified of Wanda. Because when Agnes is talking to Herb later, she's like, no, stop it. And she looks terrified.
Well, no, she was talking to, what's his face?
To Herb.
Herb. Oh, I thought you said her. Like,
oh, Herb. Yeah.
Yeah. She's like, no, but I guess my brain was like, yeah, it could be that. Or are they afraid of Mephisto or something?
Maybe
like,
that's like I don't know.
It's so, because it makes me feel, and then like the doctor's like, oh, it's hard to escape, you know.
And what he says earlier, he's going to vacation in Bermuda, which obviously is famous for the Bermuda Triangle, where people go and disappear. You know, it's like they're all adding in this like little things.
Do you think she like? So here's another fuck. Like, this contradicts my other theory. Do you think like she just like plucked these people out of their lives and is like, you're gonna be my little puppets for my little magic house neighbor, so I can play house?
I do think that.
Okay,
I'll get to that in a second, I think. But you
everybody's
see how
listening to this podcast, because we're getting into some shit. Like,
yeah.
Tell your friends. Like, it's like we like this is the spot. Let's all right.
Yeah. So Wanda does not have full control of this reality. Like, obviously she can like bend things and change things, but it's either that someone is pulling the strings even on her, or kind of manipulating her, because obviously everything Agnes does is kind of like manipulating her to, or even the whole town. Like the whole second episode was like, you need to have kids, like, you know, for the children, you know, repeated like a fucking cult. You know, Agnes being like, oh yeah, she can help you with, you know, school admission, and like looks at her stomach and everything like that. It's like they've all been trying to influence her in some way, shape, or form. But you know, she's putting together.
It was almost like they were trying to talk her into making herself pregnant.
Exactly. Yeah. And then they're making like the little the baby's room, and she hangs up the butterfly mobile. And then she says, oh, it's like fluttering, and then makes all the butterflies come to life. And she's like, oh, did I do that? I didn't mean to do that. It's either like she's not in fully control or she's losing control. It could be either. Yeah, and even the thing with the stork, Like her trying to make the stork go away, and the stork's like, nah.
She's like so powerful, she can't control what she's manifesting into reality, and it's like gonna probably lead into some very like if like you have someone who literally can bend reality to her will, like all she has to do is imagine a world where all she has to do is imagine Pietro's like Pietro has to be coming back because all she has to do is imagine it and it's there.
I want to talk about like what we think's coming in like the
something?
No, you're fine. Okay. I wanted to talk in a little bit of what we think's going to come in the next episode or the next few episodes in a little bit. But yeah, it's she's like that glitch moment. Like I almost didn't even notice it the first time. I was like, wait, what? You know, they do it so like crazy and like in like you said, everyone thought their like app crashed or like their internet like shorted out or something. They're like, wait, what the fuck just happened? Like, but then you realize like, oh, the conversation like went back a little bit because she didn't like the answer. And then we get the moment. Geraldine obviously helps with the birth and everything. And then she has the kids in the crib, and she kind of breaks, and like how you talked about earlier, I did put that in my notes too about how her accent came back when she said Pietro, and like her saying Pietro and then her starting to sing that Sokovian lullaby, it breaks whatever spell is on Geraldine too, and she's like, Pietro, he was killed by Ultron, wasn't he? And when she said that, I didn't even like. We talk about Mandalorian a little bit and like saying like there were so many like what the fuck or holy shit moments where I literally said holy fuck or whatever out loud. That line took me so off guard. I like internally gasped. Like my heart like sank. I was like, oh, like
especially because he hasn't been mentioned since that movie.
No, I don't think either of them have. Like none of them. Like Ultron has been mentioned, but not by name. Like Bruce Banner brings it up like in Infinity War when like Vision turned off his tracker and Bruce Banner goes, oh, you let another android on the loose or whatever, and obviously you see the weird Ultron minion head in Homecoming. Like his effects have been left on the MCU for sure, but he has not been mentioned by Ultron. And the same thing with Pietro is pretty much almost like forgotten, since he died.
They did that on purpose, so so Evan Peters could have the spotlight pretty much. Like that's the other thing I got. They like his character got basically fucked over in the MCU because of Fox.
A little bit,
So he got killed off because they're like, we can't have two Quicksilvers. That was pretty much what the whole thing was, and his character had gypped. So I like would very much, but no. When she said she broke, I didn't think about it though. Where like. You said the spell got broken
or whatever, like.
Well, yeah, because I never thought of it like that. I've always looked at it like Monica Rambeau has always been faking. Has been my theory.
I didn't think so because
when they're like, oh, she has no home, no family, blah blah blah. She's not supposed to be there at all. Wanda didn't put her there. Whoever put everyone there didn't put her there. Sword put her there somehow.
Right. So, yeah, she was sent in to infiltrate, but I think as soon as she went in, she got like caught in whatever spell or whatever the fuck is happening to the rest of this town. Because even in the second episode, when they were like, she was like, I don't even know what I'm doing here. And it was like very meta to be like, I don't know what I'm doing in this town. And then she's like, oh, I'm Wanda. And she's like, oh, I'm Geraldine. Like she didn't even know what her name was, she like almost like whatever name came to her first was her name and everything like that.
I think she's going to get all her memories back now that she's out of the vision.
Yeah. And the crazy thing about her getting kicked out of it is that her clothes are the same. It's not like she got kicked out of the pocket reality and her clothes went to normal.
So it shows you it's not an illusion. Like it's all.
Yeah. Like it is. That's why I was like alluding to earlier is like from the last scene, we see it is like a pocket reality and like the things that are happening in it are really happening for sure.
It's so fucking wild. Oh,
yeah.
Like the fucking crazy. It's just like I just want to be like fuck, because it's like I'm not gonna see that. I'm not gonna see the ends of all these threads for probably like 5 to 10 years, and it just drives me crazy because this is all shit that's like every episode has planted like 40 seeds for MCU massive events in the next couple of movies, and it's just. Sure. From like Monica Rambeau's character, depending on how comically accurate they take her, is like almost as powerful as Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
She's like OP as fuck. So like, did she get like, I don't like how where's all this go? I wonder if she's gonna show up in Captain Marvel 2. That would be smart.
They confirmed that she is, because it's gonna be her, Brie Larson's Captain Marvel, and Miss Marvel are all gonna be in it. So pretty much every iteration of Captain Marvel besides Marvel are gonna be in Captain Marvel 2, which I guess Marvel still could be in Captain Marvel 2. It'd just be kind of weird that they'd bring her back again. But so like you were saying with the dead theory, from what I just said, that's why I think it could be partially true. But as you see when she gets jumped out of that pocket reality, you see it's a real town, and you even see a house like right inside. So some of them could be dead, but I think most of it is just the village being taken over by whatever the fuck is going on, you know.
So what we got? How many episodes do we have left? 6, 5,
6. Or yeah, so it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 6. Yeah.
So much can happen in fucking 6 more episodes.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's. So I've seen some people like, again, like there's been like the skepticism and the criticism of like they're giving you just enough to be like, oh, what the fuck's gonna happen next? Like on top of like a weird superhero sitcom thing.
Yeah.
Even though I'm thoroughly enjoying it because I kind of grew up on sitcoms. Like I watched I Love Lucy, and we're kind of getting into the stuff that like I really watched when I was a kid. Like some of like the Nick at Night stuff on like with I Love Lucy and stuff. I watched that as well. But now we're starting to get like really in, because like next week's probably going to be like Family Ties. Like maybe they'll do some Full House stuff because Full House started in the 80s. There's a ton of sitcoms in the 80s, so they can really pull from a lot of shit. And then like even like the 90s and the 2000s, like I'm stoked for those.
Dude, it's gonna be and it just makes me like, I knew this was gonna be good, but it's already so much fucking bigger than I thought it was gonna be as far as the implications. And it just makes me think like, okay, if fucking WandaVision took me this off guard, like what is Falcon and Winter Soldier gonna do to us? Like
yeah, for sure. Because that's like obviously that one's more of a straight up MCU type property, you know what I mean?
It's shorter, so more is gonna happen per episode, you know.
Yeah, the thing is like the run time of weeks is shorter, but the length of content is the same.
The time we're gonna have to wait to get shit.
Which I think we're gonna get a lot more in an episode.
I think that ties back to what I said in the last podcast where I was saying how I think in every way this show would have been a more universally easier to digest for more normie people if they had gotten to have their like 6-episode action binge first, and now they're getting
Black Widow
different. And now they're getting something a little different. So it's like, but where you basically had to get like, it would be like if I was gonna like, my band was like a really heavy band and I wanted to go a little lighter, but instead of dropping like a song that was like a little heavy and a little light, I just went full radio and had my band suddenly be like, wait, what the fuck is this now? Like I didn't give them that taste of it first. So it's like, and that's how I kind of think about it. It's where I think anybody not giving this a chance is totally fucking up and going to end up just binging it later.
Probably.
Which honestly, like in some ways, like I love this. Like this makes it bearable with all the anticipation because I get to look forward to this and discuss.
Yes, I love the week to week. I really do.
But I totally, in some ways, wish I could just fucking binge this all at once because like it's so obnoxious how many cliffhangers. It's just cliffhanger city.
Yeah. Before we talk about what we think might happen in the next episode or next few episodes, I want to go over a few more Easter eggs. So the Easter eggs weren't as deep as last episode. Last episode was insane with deep Easter eggs. Most of them we already went through, like Wiccan and Speed already, being in it. One that was obviously very evident that Wanda even points out is Geraldine's necklace is the sword logo. The doll that Vision changes the diaper on, it was actually the same doll as that was used in an episode of the Brady Bunch, which is another just crazy attention to detail to the sitcoms they're like copying or paying tribute to. That I thought was very cool. What's his name? Phil, the one with the mustache, when he's reading the newspaper, Dottie's husband, when he's reading the newspaper, it says twin fire hydrants, which obviously kind of alludes to like, oh, the twins. But when he first is looking at it, it's folded so it looks like just Hydra, which is pretty. I don't know if that was done on purpose, but I feel like it kind of was, especially with the
everything's on purpose,
especially with like the Hydra soak thing. What else do I have here?
So that scene also made me feel like Dottie isn't anybody special because she's just a part of the whole thing with everybody else.
Yeah, I think so too. That was a fun theory that Dottie could be Mephisto, though.
Yeah, that part was the part that made me laugh the most in the episode. When she's like, "This makes me look fat," and then the lights turn off. He's like, "Thank God." Like,
yeah, that was really
part,
funny.
Like, I laughed both times I watched it. I audibly laughed at that scene.
Yeah,
that was
it's
great.
funny. I like a lot of people are like, I don't really think it's really funny. Like it's like corny funny, but I love corny funny. So maybe that's why I just think it's funny. Anyway, I don't know.
Like tropes are fun. It's like, you know.
Yeah, like to me, it's like they're being super smart about it, and like I appreciate it, and that's why I think it's funny. I don't know.
Well, it's like it's intentionally corny.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what makes it good, you know.
Yeah, and then the one last one I caught really was the Sizer paint she was using to paint. It's actually the name of, I think his name is Jeremy or Sizmer or Sizmer, or however you pronounce it. It's actually the last name of a production crew member on WandaVision. He's actually a part of the team for Doctor Strange 2 as well. So it's just one of those little nods where they put in a name and it's actually a name to someone who helps work on it, which is really cool. There was also one in the Hydra Soak. Someone brought up that it's sitting kind of like the Tesseract sat, and it's like obviously a cube. That was like I don't know if that was done intentionally. It could have been for sure. Not like it's connected to it, but just kind of like a visual nod. And it said like release the goddess within, and some people thought that could be a reference to Hecate, which in the comics Wanda gets her powers from in one of the comic runs. Could just be a little Easter egg. But that's really all I had for the Easter eggs, I think.
You know,
a lot of them were kind of like in your face in this episode, you know.
I keep wondering now with everything, it's like in the MCU, I felt like there was such a finality to Endgame, but there's not. I just feel like I keep thinking, especially with the Eternals and all this other shit, I just feel like Thanos has to come back in some form. Like Thanos never stays dead. That's just his thing. No matter how many times you think he's bad, he's done. He's
with Thanos. Alive. I think it'd be awesome if they do this, but if they end up doing Secret Wars in however many years to help like reset the multiverse when it gets too out of hand, in Secret Wars there's a panel because Thanos shows up with the Dark Order in Battle World, which is Doom's new world he creates where he's fucking God.
And Doom rips his spine out, right?
No, he literally just makes him disappear. He literally just like points at him and he like explodes like fucking Dr. Manhattan does to Rorschach in Watchmen.
Oh, really? Oh, what am I
thinking of? That might have mine is from like the newer rendition of Secret Wars. Like the more recent.
I just remember God Doom just like pulling like Thanos' skeleton out of his body.
Which if they like imagine you're in the movie theaters, right? Secret Wars is happening. The Russos came back to direct it. Everyone's like, this movie's going to be fucking insane. Thanos shows up and Doom just goes, like, even if he like snaps at him and he just explodes, like I would be like, fuck. Like people would lose their shit. Like ever since I read that and then Endgame happened, I was like, if they just pull that one, if there's a few scenes, if they just pull that from the comics, like people would lose their fucking shit. Like,
yeah, I mean, and you know, Josh Brolin would do it. But I would.
Oh yeah, of course.
I guess for me, I mostly would want to see Thanos come back in some flashback stuff in the Eternals. Like,
I hope so too. Yeah, I'm hoping for that as well.
That Thanos solo comic arc. I want to see that shit.
Yeah, I hope he's referenced at least in Eternals. I would hope so.
And Kronos, you know, it's like,
yeah,
all that shit. But god damn, man, it's just got me thinking so much about. You know, I think the thing that gives me so much stress about it is that it's like there's no schedule, there's no knowing. Like they're filming all these movies that are gonna basically be stuck in limbo until COVID's over, which could be fucking never.
Like, I just hope they release Black Widow in May. Just do it.
Yeah, I don't know what the fuck they're waiting for. Like no one cares. They missed the fucking train, so just do it. Like
I know they're just like I said this in the group as well. For anyone listening who is maybe it's their first time listening, there's a secret Facebook group called Metalcore Nerds that we just everyone posts like funny memes and news articles, and we just talk about what's going on in pop culture. It's really awesome, really fun, and I love getting new people in there. So if you want, you can just request access, and I'll admit you into it. But I said to someone, it's like they have the luxury of these series, so it's like the MCU's not in limbo. As long as like what happened in those movies doesn't affect what's happening in the shows or the timeline of how things are getting released, it doesn't really matter, I guess.
But it will.
Just sucks.
We already know it does, because we now know that like once they wrap up this first round of shows, we know Doctor Strange and like Spider-Man are directly connected to all this shit. So like those
moving those back will be rough.
Yeah, those have to come out, or the whole MCU is paused again.
Because Doctor Strange is supposed to come out in a year from now or whatever, next March.
And then you have 2 movies that are already supposed to fucking be out before these shows came out. So it's like they can only put off this shit for so long before the whole timeline's gonna get inconsistent and get fucked.
Yeah, that's why I'm just hoping, because obviously that report, it was like they're likely going to delay it, which I get it. That movie is going to make $1 billion. Like if it was normal times, that movie's making $1 billion. Like there's no way around it. But just do a premium VOD on Disney Plus. It's going to make so much fucking money. It might not make $1 billion, but it'll make a fuck ton of money, and it'll keep your shit going. Like
the longer they wait, the less it's going to make. So it's like,
yeah,
there's no
like, people want to see this fucking movie. Like my worry of it is that
you can charge $25 to watch it one time on Disney Plus, and everyone will do it.
Yeah, for sure. And my only worry is that it's going to get Wonder Woman 84, and people are going to be like, "Oh, we've waited so long for this movie. This movie wasn't as good as I thought it was," and people are going to shit on it, even though it's probably going to be a really good movie regardless. But that's my worry, because fandom is terrible. It can be terrible.
To be fair, I mean, even though even with all of that hate on Captain Marvel was dope and it did great. So it's like, you know what I mean?
But that's the thing, though, with box office not being the same as it is, you just see the hate. It's not like Venom, where Venom was criticized for the most part, but it still made a fuckload of money. But it was like it was divisive, just like how Aquaman was, just how Wonder Woman 84 was. And Captain Marvel wasn't even that divisive. It was to a point, but it was pretty much generally like viewed in a good light. But I think that's mostly because it was MCU.
Like it was people that like the girl power factor in it. No,
it's funny because my wife hates it because she thinks the girl power in it wasn't enough.
I thought it was pretty. I thought they ham-fisted it about as much as you can without making it corny.
Well, her part is that she does not connect with the character, which is fine. It makes total sense because you don't even know. She doesn't even know who she is as a character. Like you don't. Like she's like, I don't know what I am. Am I human? Am I part alien? I have these powers. I don't know what the fuck I am. So like she couldn't connect with the character like she could with Wonder Woman or anything like that. There was no, like, the parts I love about the movie is seeing the origin of Nick Fury and how it's like a 90s buddy cop, and seeing the Skrull stuff and seeing more of the stuff that like laid the groundwork to like why the Avengers were made and why the Tesseract was here at this time point and shit like that. Yeah, that's the shit I liked. So like everything she said, I was like, your points are valid, and I can't argue those points. So I was like, I'm not a woman. I can't say that. Like,
I like that they made her just such a no nonsense, like shoot first, ask questions later girl, which you get. It's usually a dude who you see in that position. So it's like the same character. Like, I just like that she was literally like, we're gonna make this like girl you can't catcall that can literally incinerate the planet. Like, you know what I mean? That's like, I kind of liked how just like tough she was, and how like she was kind of like, she was that kid who like wanted to do like why did my brother get to do all this fun shit, but I didn't because I'm a girl, and like I probably could have done it better than him. And then like you really get to see it come full circle when she like beats the piss out of Thanos and like makes him like basically panic, right? Like at the last second, which was like one of the best parts of that whole fight. I thought was when she's just breaking his hand, like dude. But yeah. I don't, but yeah, like Wanda though, I don't know. I feel like there's going to be some, then now I'm thinking like, is there going to be some like Wanda Captain Marvel showdown? Is Wanda going to be some sort of anti-hero to some end? Like,
maybe. So let's talk about what we think that happen next episode. You brought up Quicksilver coming back, but here's the big question.
Not next
Which
episode.
Quicksilver, or maybe next episode. It could be next episode. It probably won't be, but it could be.
I feel like only because I've heard no news of Aaron Taylor Johnson, but I just feel like it's going to be Evan Peters. I'm sure there'll be some explanation for it. I would like to at least see like the original Quicksilver pop up, even if it's for only an instant.
Unless they kept that super under wraps, which Marvel was very good at.
Yeah. Like, I just feel like Quicksilver.
If we saw both of them, I would be stoked.
Yeah, or both of them, and to what end and to what permanence?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what makes me wonder. It's just like, I just feel like it's so dumb to set up all this and just have like they have every Quicksilver is just not a character you just kill off in one episode, and like he's fucking Quicksilver. Like there's so much, and also there's no speedsters in our MCU right now. Like we don't have that Flash character that, you know what I mean?
It could be replaced by Speed, maybe.
I think it's hard for me to because I'm biased because it's like Quicksilver is one of my favorite.
Quicksilver is awesome. X-Men. I love Quicksilver,
and he might be my favorite X-Men. If I had to like close my eyes and just like say one off the top of my head, which is hard because I don't know if Scarlet Witch counts or if it's hard to know what she is, but she would be.
She's a mutant, but she's not really an X-Men.
Yeah,
she's never really an X-Men.
Like Wanda.
She is a mutant.
The twins, them themselves though, are two of my favorite. Things.
So my thing is like, I think this show is ultimately going to be about like grief and her dealing with grief. So it's almost like her accepting that Vision and Quicksilver are finally dead. And that's like a part of this whole thing is like, it's almost like her healing process in a way, or it could be like partially healing and it leads to like something crazier. But I do hope next episode that we get more of an insight in what S.W.O.R.D. is doing. We obviously see that they're kind of trying to help her, maybe, and that they don't know why it's happening. So, and the new acronym, I guess, for the MCU, I guess it was like leaked on like a trading card because before it was like Sentient World Observation Research.
It's like super.
But now it's like Sentient Weapon.
Yeah,
which like obviously Vision and Scarlet Witch are sentient weapons, you know. Which is like in the prediction episode, I was like, oh, S.W.O.R.D. is probably the new Shield, which that kind of adds to. Seems like they are mostly like the new Shield. But my big question of S.W.O.R.D., if they are like sentient weapon, whatever, is that like, are they really totally good? Because that kind of leans on like the Sokovia Accord stuff and like the Superhero Registration Act, which is what it was in the comics. Like, so are they overseeing them? Not really for them. It's really for everyone else. You know what I mean? So it's like, do they really care about Wanda? They could, because obviously S.H.I.E.L.D. was kind of like, they were good, but they did some bad shit. Like it was a little bit of both.
It might be like both names are spacing on me, but like the FBI agent and then
Agent Wu and then Darcy Lewis.
Yeah, so Darcy and Agent Wu, like they could be like it could be kind of like Rhodey, where it's like there's a skeptical higher power, but they're sympathizers working.
Yeah, for sure.
Let me bring them in before they bring you in.
True.
Like let us try to save you, because like they have to be looking at this bit like basically someone hovers. Like Wanda's basically hovering drunk with her finger over a nuclear launch code.
Pretty much,
every second she's alive. So it's like that's how the government has to be viewing her, And it's I don't know. So I think in the next episode, I guess I wonder if it's gonna continue nonstop with the sitcom thing, or if there's gonna be a random episode where all of a sudden it's taking place starting in the outside of the Vision, and you're finally seeing what's been going on, and then it goes back in, or maybe they'll save that until like towards the end,
right?
Or that's what more and more.
Yeah, I'm hoping maybe we'll get some back and forth stuff, because the part I loved about her being like, oh, Geraldine went home, and then the ratio widened out, and then you saw her get kicked out of the bubble. It's like we went from the sitcom world to the real world. I was like,
widescreen.
Yeah, I loved how they've done that. It's so cool. I love the little attention to details they did. And another video brought up something very interesting, that usually when Wanda uses her powers, or even Vision, it's kind of been like the old sitcom like wire use. But when it's something like real, like when Vision had to like take the food out of Mr. Hart's throat and shit like that,
it's the real CGI.
It's like the real power. So it's like there's obviously like a difference in both.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and I wonder if they're going to explain that too.
I think too, I've noticed too, one of the parallels between like this show and like the MCU in general is like the vibe and the scale of which it's changed as time's gone on. Like think about like how grounded it was when Iron Man came out, and like how grounded the first 2 WandaVision episodes were, and then all of a sudden like we're like, oh, okay, like Ant-Man's big now, like we're going there in the real like they had to like kind of like they had to start it out where it's like Marvel like was the first thing, was the first it basically opened up. It was kind of like Bring Me the Horizon being like, yeah, you can totally do all this weird shit. It'd be like and you're like they were like, oh yeah, like we're totally gonna like work our way up to shit that you never thought anybody would just accept in live action form.
Right.
And they just did it, but they had to like slow roll it.
Yeah,
shock value at a time. And then this show was kind of like, oh yeah, it's a sitcom. Oh, by the way, like here's the drop some acid. Now this is happening, and you're like, what the fuck? Like that last episode, it just got real weird.
Yeah.
And like I agree with Kevin Smith though, that whole dialogue scene where Wanda like gets all pissed is so haunting and like enthralling.
Dude.
Like the mood. Like I was like glued. I like kept rewatching that one scene because it just you could cut the tension with a knife. It was like.
Dude, yeah, like I said,
she's so tormented and
because even when she says Ultron, you see a tear run down the side of her face, like one single tear.
It's like,
and then she gets pissed.
She's so pissed. She doesn't want to feel. I feel like it's also just so like relevant to like everybody's mental health right now. She's literally just like compartmentalizing and just blocking out the reality
for sure
that she doesn't want to face or see, and it's like. And it's almost like it's making her into like a villain where it's like she's just like if you fuck with my little like play house with me or I'm gonna like turn you into a wax doll. Like it's, you know what I mean?
I told Sam, I was like, when she said Ultron, the face Wanda gave her is like, anytime I say anything stupid to you. It's like, what did you say? Like, you fucking idiot.
And then when like, and she still looks kind of pissed when like Vision comes back, it's like
it's creepy.
She's like in character, but her face isn't because he can't see her face.
Yeah.
She's like, oh yeah, she had to go.
It's like, I said it a little while ago, you know, like Vision is becoming more and more aware that something is not going on. So it's like, when will that break happen where Wanda can't keep rewinding shit for him to like stop realizing what's happening? Like, when is it going to really break down to like Vision being like, for real, what the fuck is happening? You know?
Yeah, because then there's that scene from the comic. There's the one scene from the trailer where she's like, "You're dead."
Yeah, you know? Yeah.
It's like, oh man.
That's just like, I don't know if the Halloween episode's next week or the week after or what. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I think it is next week's episode. I believe so.
Another weird note that I didn't bring up for last episode, they're all saying for the children, and there's no children at all. Like, obviously they're talking about for the children, it's really them alluding to having Wanda.
None of the couples have kids.
So now that Wanda and Vision have twins, like there's gonna be children. I suspect that will be next episode too. There'll be children everywhere. You know what I mean? And they won't even act that it's weird that she had kids or had a 9 months pregnancy and had kids in a day span. They're just gonna be like, oh yeah, like our kids can play together or whatever. It's gonna be totally normal.
Well, because she's making the world to suit her family, little
exactly.
Family, like family. It's just yeah. I keep going. These weeks between are gonna get more and more painful as this.
I know.
Like, it's rough, man.
I know. But yeah, do you have anything else about this episode before we wrap it up?
No, I don't think. I think like I don't want to be too wrong about too many things, so I'm gonna stop there because it's like there's so many threads to pull on.
Yeah.
I just don't. Sure. I feel like there's probably one thing I forgot about, forgetting about that I could probably follow up with next week, but
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, I definitely like. I guess that was kind of, for me, it was like when all the sword agents, if that's what that is, like we know Sword's watching, we don't know that's Sword. Right. You know, they're all putting their guns on her. I feel like they should know who she is. So that was
unless they're like wondering, like Is there something wrong with her now that she was in it or whatever?
Yeah,
That's why I'm saying, like, I hope we get some more sword stuff next week so we kind of like realize what the fuck they're actually doing. Like, other than observing and trying to figure out what the fuck's going on, like, I want to know like what they're actually doing.
that thing about the cemetery was interesting.
Yeah. I mean,
What's
it
the
adds to your
cemetery?
theory, like, yeah, but it seems like, I mean, there could be a cemetery in part of the town, you know what I mean? And some of them are dead. But from that last scene, it seems like it is a real town, and there are people who actually lived in that town. We see a house, you know, so it's like I don't think they're all dead. Some of
Yeah,
them still could be dead
it's
though.
almost. I guess the thing, one thing that'll be interesting to see if we when we find out is like, why was she in that place at all
Right.
when this happened?
Yeah, it's
And
like in New Jersey.
yeah, and like
Why are they in New Jersey?
who is gonna be where? Like, what are the other Avengers? Excuse me, what are the other Avengers doing? Like, who's gonna be in this fight? Like, at the end, you know what I mean? Like, is it like I just had this idea where it's like, what if it's like Vision, both Quicksilvers and the kids and Wanda all teamed up fighting something crazy, and then they all vanish after they help her win, kind of thing. Like, I don't, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like that could be something they do because they said like they said full scale like MCU.
Yeah, like I feel like the last 3 episodes are going to be like a movie in itself.
Yeah, you saw Vision shooting his forehead laser in the trailer, like doing his whole like
Yeah.
clip. So it's like, who the fuck is he shooting at? Like, I can't. That's what I want to know. Is like, where does this?
I don't know.
And it's kind of it's fun with this and Star Wars now, where it's like you literally don't know what to expect, but you know to expect something just out of pocket that's gonna blow your mind. Like, you know, whatever is gonna happen is gonna be like, it doesn't matter what it is.
Yeah, Kevin Feige came out and said he's like, for everyone being patient, he thinks the payoff is well worth it, and I would believe him. Like, if you think back to like Infinity War and Endgame, I would say the payoff was worth it. So
yeah,
I would, in Feige we trust, as I like to say.
Well, and I guess I'll end this with saying, like, as much as we want to, I think they'll lay seeds, but there's nothing remotely confirmed about X-Men so far.
No.
But the only thing I've heard leaks about is that supposedly Wolverine may be introduced earlier on as one of the first mutants joining the Avengers, and X-Men the movie like the mutants to some end will show up, but X-Men itself won't be an entity till later. But I just don't think that's anywhere where this is going. I think it's very much going to be some sort of like big Mephisto bad guy magical bullshit thing, and like
I just want the word mutants to be said in this series. That's all I want.
That would be pretty sweet.
Not like, oh, she brought out X-Men or whatever. Like, I just want the word mutants to be said.
You know, it could even be something with like when it finally shows you the flashback.
Yeah.
To like them with the twins, that there was more than just those two X-Men there to begin with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, who else? Like, it could be even like all you see someone else in the background.
And we talked about it before, like the whole snap thing and Rocket saying like the universe has never felt a surge like that. Like, that could have easily, the 4 snaps that happened could have easily activated the X gene across the universe.
Yep. I'm gonna be interested to see how they like, especially, and that brings up, the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. We don't know what's canon, what's not, but like how they're differentiating the Inhumans thing from the X-Men thing, because they rode the X-Men plot pretty hard in the video game with the Inhumans. Like, they kind of just played it like that. When the Inhumans, I feel like, weren't as prominent of a modern day. They were, but it wasn't like that. You know what I mean? Where it was such
very hidden.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm curious of how they'll incorporate Inhumans. Like,
I think we'll see that in the Miss Marvel show, probably, because that's how she gets her powers. So there must be some like weird. It's like, I almost think they'll do something like they did in the game. You know, like San Diego was like, like ground zero for this Terrigen bomb or whatever, and like all these powered people came out. Like, I feel like it's going to be something. It has to be something like that in some way, shape, or form.
And I wonder, like, Oh fuck! I just lost my train of thought because my head's spinning all this shit now. Like, because the Inhuman show, like the Inhuman show, was supposed to be a full MCU movie, and that got turned into a show, which was horrible and did horrible. Where I feel like they're almost gonna just retcon it.
They
so
are.
Like, are the Inhumans even MCU? Like, are they canon? You know what I'm saying? Like, are the actual Inhumans that we all give a shit about anywhere? You know what I mean? Like you can give me Miss Marvel and it's all dope, and give me whatever all day long, but like I want fucking Black Bolt. Like I don't.
Yeah.
Like you have the Celestials have all this shit. The Inhumans should have basically been like what they said it was going to be, which was Game of Thrones in space. You know,
right.
It was in like.
And they were just like, "Oh, we'll give you a Game of Thrones character in space."
Which,
right?
By the way, that casting was so perfect. I'm kind of bummed it went the way it did. Like that was so promising.
Yeah.
I think that
it's just like
whatever they do, he should be the same actor playing Max.
It was a weird thing because Kevin Feige really wasn't involved. It was more of a Jeff Loeb thing, who did Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and a bunch of the other Marvel TV properties. And it wasn't even supposed to be a movie. They were just supposed to show, which they did. They showed like the first 2 or 3 episodes in IMAX, which is weird. They premiered them in IMAX.
Originally, when it was slated, though,
it was supposed to be a movie.
It was slated,
and
as
they
a
changed
film,
it,
and then it got delayed and turned into a show, which makes it,
so
which
weird.
I feel like is the reason it turned to shit.
Yeah. It, like the budget was not what it needed to be. Medusa's hair looked like garbage. I watched all of it, but I was like, I don't even know. I just watched.
Like not once did I ever feel like I was really watching Black Bolt be Black.
No,
and I don't think it was Anson Mount's fault. It was like he didn't look like Black Bolt.
No, it just wasn't done well at all.
Yeah, and I just that was just such a missed opportunity that just bothers me, and I hope they.
Yeah, I think since it was a TV property and it technically wasn't Marvel Studios, they can totally just pretend like it didn't exist.
Yeah. Oh fuck! So we got 6 episodes to go. 6 fucking.
Yep.
Crazy.
Like 4.5 hours ish left. Probably like 4.
So we got 6 episodes, which means 3 more episodes of the song and dance before shit's gonna get weird.
Like, probably. I mean, I think there'll still be like the crazy weird moments like we got in this episode. Like I think that'll get more and more as we go on for sure.
I don't think we're gonna start getting payoffs until the last of any kind.
Definitely not. Yeah, I'm just like really interested because, like I said in the interviews I watched, Paul Bettany said all of this is like leading to something that'll make sense. Like it all ties together. So, there was a really fun theory I saw about the people in the commercial, the man and woman. They've been the same through every commercial. That those are Wanda and Pietro's parents. Because they're the same one. They're the same people in each commercial.
That's interesting.
Yeah. I thought that was a really fun one.
But then it's like, but then they're right there just being like Magneto's not their dad.
Could be foster parents. Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot.
It would be really hard for them to tie in Magneto to be their parents, I think. But they still could do it, I guess. To me, it's just like, I can't. This is why I don't make fucking Marvel property TV shows and movies, but I could not personally think of a way where they could make it make sense that Magneto is their father. Personally.
I don't think they could now, but I think they could later if they do the foster parent thing.
Yeah, like that's what I'm saying. Like maybe it's like, they were our parents, and you find out later they weren't really her parents. You know, like obviously they raised her and her brother, but they weren't like birth parents. But who knows?
Fuck. All right. Yeah, I get like mull that over. I feel like I need to. I try to just not think about it too much between because it just makes me more conscious of how waiting.
Yeah, for sure.
This is like rough, but yeah.
Awesome.
Same next week.
Yep. Anyone who's listening, I've seen some feedback in the group. Let us know what you're thinking of these episodes, and we will see you next week for the after show episode 4.